Wow, have things changed since Nebraska last played against Illinois? Now, this Big Ten West is now wide open. And could Nebraska actually win the Big Ten West? I mean, could Northwestern actually win the Big Ten West? You know, it's not so far-fetched as you might think. So let's discuss this right now.
Giving ground. Here comes the pressure. He gets away from Holmes, finds his way to the outside. McLaughlin turns him around. He sets and throws, and this ball is caught.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff with Big Red Country with Jeff, coming to you live in my Tesla and trying to figure time of doing these videos. I still work full-time, and being in the accounting business, it's not a normal 8 to 5 job, so finding the time to do these is really hard. So I'm actually doing this right outside where I work. But I wanted to get into this Northwestern Nebraska matchup coming up on Saturday at 2:30 and see where we stand, and can Nebraska, take this. And I think Rule had the right philosophy. He said it's okay for fans to think about the ultimate picture of making a bowl game and maybe even winning the West. But he thinks that's part of the problem and is putting too much pressure on these young men. You got to remember, these are young men that are playing this game that we love so much and root for. 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, 22. So we need to give them a break. We're putting a lot of pressure on there. And as you know, there's more pressure probably in Nebraska to win than a lot of places. And so I think we need to kind of ease off and let them take it one game at a time. And that's what Rule's trying to do, to get them to concentrate on just one game, one thing. And that's going in there beating Northwestern. And so the answer is, it should be an easy win, right? Well, not necessarily. Northwestern's been a surprise. These two teams, Nebraska and Northwestern, are not really too far apart. The only difference is Northwestern was supposed to be really bad, to the point that they didn't even expect them to maybe even win a game in the Big Ten. And I think the only game that anyone really had them winning was the Howard game this last weekend. And if you didn't see that, Howard actually gave them a run for their money. They ended up pulling it out. But Northwestern's got some good wins under their belt, and they've played pretty decent overall. They're not too far away. They went in there and being down 21, 3 touchdowns, 21 points against Minnesota. They actually came back and tied that game in the fourth quarter and took it to overtime and won this game. So it's not a far-fetched for this team to do better than you actually think they do. But I kind of want to look in there and see where we stand, what kind of fits can Northwestern give us. Right now, the line is Nebraska by 11.5, and the over-under is around 35, 36. So I probably wouldn't touch the over and under, but I definitely would take Northwestern plus the 11.5. This game's usually pretty close. I know the last time they played in Lincoln, that's probably one of the best I've seen Nebraska play in a long, long time, where they went up to Lincoln and Martinez and company took care of them 54-7, I believe it was. But if you watch that game, you'll notice some things happened early on and all that against Northwestern, and just like any other football game, when things kind of go away, just like the Illinois game, that bounce on that kickoff turned things around. Nebraska jumped on them a little bit there and then hung on to that 20-7 win, which should have been more than that. So the question is, did Nebraska during this bye week get some of these younger receivers ready to play? Did they clean up some of the mess, some of the mistakes they're making? Because Rule's just asking them just to get better each week. Try to clean up some of the things that we're seeing. So I kind of wanted to see what we thought about what will Nebraska do against Northwestern. And if you kind of look at the stats, I happen to have them right here. The rushing offense, Northwestern is ranked 118th in the nation in rush offense. And as you guys know, Nebraska is ranked, Nebraska is actually ranked 14th in the rush offense or rush defense. So Nebraska's got it going. I always favor the defense over the offense when one's better than the other. But then you got to ask yourself, is their defense that good because of who they were playing? So if you look at it, Northwestern's averaging 103 yards per game rush, and Nebraska's giving up about 75.8 yards a rush. And that's kind of misleading with Northwestern because they've had their line's giving up a lot of sacks. The sack numbers go off the rushing numbers. So to me, they actually rush a lot better than that. So the question is, can Nebraska continue to stop the run? The key now is they got to stop that run. They got to make them throw the ball. And I think that's what will happen. But we got to get them to throw the ball. Now, if you look at the passing offense, Northwestern is ranked 97th in the country, ranked around 203 yards per game. And they're not a very in-depth passing team. Their best game probably was against Northwestern, where they threw for about 380 yards. And most of that was in that final quarter. So if you take that way, they're not doing so well. And again, a lot of it has to do with their line. Nebraska is going to have to get after them, stop that run, and then they're going to have to get pressure on this quarterback. So I expect Nebraska's defense to do pretty well in this game. Now you got to ask yourself, how will Nebraska do offensively? Because Northwestern, to me, is not as bad as you think against on the defensive side, and Nebraska is struggling on the offensive side, with not only already struggling with what they already had, but now you take away their top running backs, their top receivers. You got Marcus Washington now out for the year. They're going to have to depend on a lot of young guys. You got to hope Anthony Grant stays healthy. After that, you got Emmett Johnson, and I think Fleeks is starting to come into his own. And then you got to hope Malachi Coleman and Dawson and them can kind of start getting to know enough to help out this offense. It ain't just about going out there and catching. You got to know where you need to be, where to block, because in Nebraska's offense is a lot of rushing. The receivers block, and they got to know that part. That's a lot of times when kids come in from high school, they don't have that blocking down as well, because talent-wise, they're a lot better talented, and usually some of these top players than everybody else they're playing, or even their own teammates. So they don't have to do as much to get that DB blocked in high school as they do when they get here and they got a better athlete that they're going against. And so a lot of times it's just getting down that right technique, getting developed properly. But I think we're going to see a lot more of Malachi Coleman and some of the others. So let's hope we see a little more. We did hear that Heimberg will be the #1 quarterback, and I think it's more because he fits more their style. But I wouldn't mind actually seeing Jeff Sims some. I don't think we ought to give up on this kid yet. If you watch some of his Georgia Tech team, yeah, he started out here at Nebraska, and it might have been a lot of pressure on Nebraska. Maybe if he's not the starter, he'll go on there and shine more because he's not the starter. But I don't want to give up on him yet. You know, he's still got another year eligibility if he stays, but he might not, because I'm going to tell you, as bad as he's done, as bad as you guys think he will, he's going to get drafted in the NFL. The NFL looks at a 6'4" quarterback that runs a 4.40, and they're going to give him a shot. Now, he might go in the 6th or 7th round of the NFL draft, but when he comes out, he's going to at least be drafted. So the question is, does he leave and get drafted where he probably go in the 6th, 7th round, or does he come back for another year, gets that opportunity, and makes better of himself because he could only do nothing but really go up. If you look at the rush defense, Northwestern's rush defense is 106th in the nation, giving up 172 yards. So they've been giving up some rush yards. Now, their pass defense is ranked 26th in the nation, only giving up 189.7. But again, that has a lot to do with most teams are running against them. Don't need to pass if you're running. So I think Nebraska's going to really try to get that rushing going, get that running game going. We need Anthony Grant to be a workhorse, try to hold on to the ball, and Harbor get in there and do his thing. Hopefully, we won't need to throw as much, and I could see them moving the ball a little bit on this defense. Total defense, Northwestern's ranked 55th in the nation. Nebraska's actually ranked 24th. They give up 362 total yards of offense. And so it's not impossible. The turnover ratio is the key. Northwestern's turnover ratio is at 0. They're ranked 61st, but Nebraska's 127th out of 131 teams. They're at -7, and I got to admit, a lot of that came real early, first couple games. They've done better lately, but they still are putting the ball on the ground. They just got lucky and got some of them balls back. So a lot of it has to do, they're going to have to play a clean game, no turnovers, eliminate the penalties, and if they can kind of get out of their own way, this game will be favorable for Nebraska. So my final prediction is a Nebraska win, and I'm going to now say Nebraska will win this game 21-13 or 20-13. And so if you're a betting person, I definitely would probably take Northwestern and that 11.5 points. I think the defenses probably on both sides will probably do well early. I do expect Nebraska to kind of get the running game going. Hopefully by the second half, wear them down a little bit and move the ball more and maybe pull away a little bit. But I only see about a 7 or 8 point win for Nebraska. But I do see a victory. It is in Lincoln, so that's a plus. And that would make them 4-3, make them over 500, needing only 2 more wins. And if you didn't hear, Illinois beat Maryland last week, so that's who Nebraska will be playing here soon. So maybe Maryland's not such a workhorse as we thought they were. And so these games are very winnable. Wisconsin lost their starting quarterback themselves. We already knew Iowa lost their starting quarterback. So all these games are winnable. You got Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa. Not saying Nebraska's going to win them all, but they could easily, with Northwestern winning that game, could easily win four of these last 6 games and end up 7-5. It's not even impossible to win 5 of these last 6 games and be 8-4. And with the way the West is right now, the last year of the West, maybe Nebraska could earn that rematch against Michigan. Hopefully they would learn something from that, play a little better, play with a little more enthusiasm, a little more fire. Hey, get after them. Hey, we want to play with the big dogs. But I'm getting way ahead of myself, just like Matt Rule said. But again, Nebraska 21, 20, something like that, to probably around 13. I could see 10 or 13 for Northwestern. Don't expect them to get a whole lot in this game, but a Nebraska victory in there. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up to get this video out. I'd really appreciate all the support you've helped me with and given me. And if you want to join and help support the channel, you could always click that thanks button or join the Big Red Country Club membership for tickets and memorabilia that we give away. So until after this game and after the gut reaction post-game video, we'll see you then. Go Big Red.